Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios here. And today we're having a bit of a fireside chat with my good friend Scott Elliott from Chernobyl Studios. Hello!
Hello, good to see you. I see you drinking a beer of choice.
Yes.
I've got a Monkey Shoulder, which is a nice blended Scotch whiskey. Before people freak out, yes, it is blended, but I just don't feel like working tonight, if you know what I mean. So I'll just have a nice, easy to drink blended Scotch whiskey.
Cheers. Now, the reason we're having this slightly laid-back episode on the channel is to talk about Scott's new course, Mixing Your First Metal Song. Have I got the name right?
You nailed it. Nailed it.
I won't give Glenn an applause, but I'm going to add my own applause because I edit the video.
Balloons, confetti, all that stuff.
Unicorns, the works.
Everything. Guitar solo.
So yeah, we were going to talk a little bit about how we both started and how different it is now and how you can basically just cut years and years of failure out by thinking about things right. So
I mean, that's the point. I mean, when I sat down to do this, I'm sort of in a unique position, as are you. I mean, you totally understand this. Having a YouTube channel, working with clients, you literally get the same question over and over and over. And over and over and over and over again. And I mean, that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just different people coming in the same crossroad at different times. It's fine. But it occurred to me that even though we have all these YouTube videos, all these basically free tutorials, and all this overabundance of information, people are still running into the same roadblocks that I'm sure you ran into 20 years ago. I sure as hell did 20 years ago. And so I'm like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Mixing Your First Metal Song, and it's going to cover literally everything that I wish I would have known when I started this 20 years ago. And that's the gist of it. I mean, because once you have the good foundation, it's in my opinion that once you have a good, solid foundation and you understand the mechanics of how to mix and what mixing is and why you should do what you do, it'll be way easier than to take those YouTube videos and things that are legitimately out of context for a person to be like, I see how I can apply this now. But until you get over that road, it's just like, oh, parallel compression, that sounds cool. Oof. Sounds like ass. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, I'm obviously not parallel compressing enough.
Right. More. Different compressor. Should buy a new plugin. So it's the totally wrong road, right?
Yeah. Did you ever find that at the start you read all these things and you do all these things and you think, right, I've done all these things, mix sounds great, export it, listen to it the next day and go, this is horrible.
Let's see. I wish I had about 1,000 fingers because I'd be like this.
Yep, me too.
Right?
First 5 years, first 10 years even maybe, because I've been doing this nearly 20 years. Yeah, lots where you think, well, I did what it said in the book, but they didn't explain why and more importantly when.
Correct.
You do some of these cool tricks.
I saw a comment online about the video I did with Glenn. The guy was like, why'd you do that? Just go read the manual. And I'm just like, well, the manual doesn't, okay, it technically tells you what to do, but it doesn't creatively explain how to apply it.
Yeah, it doesn't. It'll tell you exactly how to do the thing, but it won't tell you when you need to do the thing and how to be careful not to go too far, etc.
Or if at all, even do the thing. Like in the course we work with program drums and program bass. There's no parallel compression with program drums. For 99% of the libraries out there, excluding Ugertone, you don't need parallel compression. You just don't need it. Full stop.
Yeah, it's as if the drummer was perfect.
Correct.
Which is great. Yeah.
I mean, you're a bass player. You of all people should know the joys of working with a real dynamic bass when you don't want it to be dynamic. Yes. Well, hey, program bass, that problem does not exist. So why are you compressing your bass 12 dB?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That if you've got a program bass and it's perfect, leave it alone. Or
literally,
at least listen to it. And if you need to do a thing to it, how do you know what things you need to do to it?
Correct. how to shape it into the mix, right? And so that's where mixing your first metal song comes from. I know it's a bit of a like, oh, is it my first song? Do I have to be a total beginner? No,
No.
because like what you just said, 5-10 years of struggle busting it, dude. I got mixes on my YouTube channel right now from 5 years ago that you can go look and listen to it and be like, oof, dude. So the growth is gradual, but it would have been way faster if these kind of resources existed when I started in 2002.
Yeah. I think that's it, is that you and me, we're trying to illuminate to people that kind of, here's a thing you've probably come across, here's how it sounded originally, here's how you wanted it to sound, and here's why it doesn't. Which is very different to like people say, oh, you can just find anything on YouTube now. How do you know what to look for?
Right, and and more importantly, here's the thing. There are so many tips and stuff on YouTube, which is fine, it's great. I mean, I'm not dogging YouTube here, and people who make those videos, fine, good. But it's still up to you to discern if this tip is good, if it applies to you. But how do you know these things? So if a guy is saying, I always parallel compress my drums, is he using real drums? Is he using you controlling drums, for example? It's a really raw library, stuff like this. Or have you progressed enough where you go, man, there's too much compression on that?
Yeah. That's actually a really good example. I don't usually parallel compress drums. I did for a while because I was told I should on forums and in magazines and by other people. And I've come to the realization that the way I work, I do other things that fill that need.
Right. So it's your workflow that you've come up with.
But it took me a very long time to establish that that's me. That's how I work. But there'll be a time when there's a drummer that I get the recordings of that just isn't quite cutting it, and the thing that's going to save it is parallel compression.
Sure. It's just a trick out of the tool bag,
Right. How did I know when to use that kind of thing? And that's it.
Well, for some reason it seems to be like, guys, it's not bad to be a beginner. All right? So like when I started in 2002, in the box mixing was archaic. I mean, just be honest, it was absolutely archaic. And that's all I knew back then. You got to get a workstation keyboard, you got to get a MIDI card, and you got to get an audio card, the ones with all the cables coming out of it that were like $700 back then, 2002 money. Okay? That a computer at that time couldn't run worth a shit anyway. All right? So all these things I had no comprehension of. At least if I could have had information that just gave me the basics of fader balance, mixed balance, level balance, knowing how to make things be in their own spot, as it were, in the mix, I would have been far happier with the results I was having at the time, and probably would have grown much faster. But these were just the headbutts and the head blocks I was just over and over and over again, thinking, because I just took full responsibility. I'm like, maybe I'm not doing it right. Rewatch the video or reread the article, try it again, and try it again. When it just was like, yeah, I wasn't doing it right because I wasn't even understanding what I was trying to do from the first point. From the first basic point, I was wrong. So it's all wrong, essentially.
I've come to realize that in the early years for me, I wasn't mixing. Because I didn't know what mixing was. What I was doing was trying to get a really good, like, superhuman sound out of every separate thing. And then just expect it to work.
Like, perfect.
Yeah, well, it's like the bass has got loads of thunder in low end, the drums sound huge, the vocals got a ton of delay and compression on. Why does this not sound like a good mix?
Right. Yeah. But I'm... I remember the first time, because the first time I heard, like, a drum set recorded through a microphone with zero processing on it, I was like, this sounds like shit.
Yeah. This doesn't sound like the records.
No, man, what? this is garbage. They're like, no, these are actually really good tones. I'm like, dude, there's like overtones and the kick drum's a pillow and all the toms are like nothing but a mid woody mess. They're like, yeah, that's why you cut the mids extremely in toms. And I'm sitting there going, huh, okay. All right. It's just, I mean, these are just things, you go on and you're learning and all these things like that. But
Yeah.
I want to allow people to just make some fucking music. Can we do that? Like if you got programmed drums, you got programmed bass, you do your guitars, you do your vocals. Here you go. Here's a mix workflow. Here's how it might be a good idea for you to order the tracks. Here's how you probably may want to consider routing them. And this is how you work with it. This is what you're listening for. This is why you do this. This is what mix balance is. And like in the course, I made a supplemental video called Static Mixing, where you take the song, and the exercise is you mix it with pan knobs and volume faders only. Because once you start introducing stuff like EQ, I mean the technical stuff like phase and blah blah blah. But once you change the relationship of that instrument to the other instruments by changing how it sounds, blah blah blah. But so we take all of that away, and you go, here you go. You got a pan knob and you got a volume fader. Make it sound like a song. And so you really have to practice.
Mix.
Yeah, you really have to practice with your ears, understanding like, all right, I need to create space for my guitars, space for my vocals. I got 20 vocal tracks. What I'm going to do with this? How do I do this? And that's literally the first step. So anytime someone's like, "Oh, this has great mix balance," well, that's what it means. You can hear everything.
Yeah, that's it. I've been quite a lot recently in the car and listening to old mixes, like early 2000s stuff. Like I've been listening to a lot of like Linkin Park and Korn and stuff from that early 2000s era, and it really surprises me now with my kind of critical ear just how it feels like everything doesn't gel as a mix. But
Dude.
then on second listen, I can hear everything without trying.
Yeah. See, I think it's so fascinating. I've done that too, because I was like, man, I wonder what down-tuned guitars sound like in late 90s with a natural kick drum, which is like the first Korn album.
Yeah.
Before they started. And also, like, what's a Mesa sound like without a tube screamer in front of it, which was the 90s, basically. I'm just like, it's like, you can hear everything. Yeah, it's not super high fidelity, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But you turn up the volume a little bit, like there's kick drum, there's snare. Okay, all right. And then bass, guitars, vocals. It's all there. It's just a different era of mixing with the limitations that they had back then, i.e. the board.
Yeah.
And just like, how do I mix this genre? It's just like when Scott was trying to mix Cannibal Corpse for the first time. Well, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
I'll just jack I'll just jack 3K on the kick drum and that'll just make it cut through the mix. Great, we'll do that. But it's 2021, guys. We shouldn't have to slog through the mud in frustration in that way. You're still going to get frustrated because you're still going to have to get used to using your ears, and you may not hear the low end right away, but at least you'll know that this section exists. And it's something that eventually your ear will pick up on. Yeah. But you're gonna start being critical now to mids, lows, and understanding these relationships. Yeah. Instead of like, okay, I'll just turn the guitars up. Oh, now I can't hear the bass or the snare. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, turn up the snare then. Turn up the bass then. Now I can't hear the guitars again. Repeat. Right. Yeah, I did that a lot. In fact, my old workflow used to be I would EQ something. If I couldn't hear it, I'd turn it up. And then I'd EQ something else. And if I couldn't hear it, I'd turn it up. And all my faders would end up super high. Like everything would be clipping to hell. So my workflow then would be to select every channel, bring all the faders back down together, and then see if it still worked. And then repeat and repeat and repeat until it...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the step you went through back then.
It's a bad workflow. It was a terrible workflow. I know that now, but it's just subconsciously what I'd ended up doing. And now my workflow is a much better workflow, and I don't do anything so stupid.
Well, I mean, there was, I wouldn't call it stupid. It was just you trying to figure things out in a vacuum. There was there was no YouTube when we started, man.
That's
I mean,
very
YouTube,
true.
when I started mixing, YouTube was still 5 years away. And even more years away after that, because the beginning YouTube stuff was like memes and just dumb videos,
Yeah, nobody did anything worth a damn educationally for a long time.
I wouldn't say until 2009, 2010 is when you could actually start looking on the platform and being like, aha, because streaming software, screen capture software was starting to get a little bit better. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, doing what you did back then, there's nothing silly in that, dude. I was even worse. I used to never make folders. I used to make the cardinal sin mistake, which I like tell people not to do, which was I would record my guitars and mix them first, and then put everything else back in. That's absolute silly with a capital S.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've made all these mistakes before. Like, I don't understand where people come across like, what do you know? You didn't go to a recording school. I'm like, man, I don't have to be a doctor to know I broke my leg. Some things are just really obvious.
Yep. And it's funny that I did go to music school. I spent 4 years doing a full degree. And that was before, like you said, when the YouTube started to have any kind
Yeah.
of tutorials that actually made sense. And I took a lot away from it, but I still, even then, missed a lot because a full school with lectures and that kind of thing, you don't really get somebody putting a pair of headphones on you and going, here's a guitar, here's some drums, here's why this guitar doesn't fit with the drums, here's the frequency range I'm going to dip, and here's why.
Right.
You don't
Right,
get
yeah.
that. You just get a lecture about this is what EQ does, this is what a compressor does, and it's like, yeah, the cool lecture, dude, but practical application.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then they
that-
would sit you in a room and make you just do it, and that's the same as being at home just doing it.
Well, it's even worse because, here's a really great example, actually. So, I love Quake. I love playing Quake, and I'm really good friends with a Quake Pro player. And anytime that I've been playing on ladder, and he'll sit on Discord with me, giving me tips in real time, of course, I crush it. I do really well in the game. Well, that's with him basically sitting here telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And then he'll go away, and then I'm back to this again. Right? So
Yeah.
so having the explanation of what to do and why and what the difference is will make your practice more meaningful, because you're not just going to be like, yeah, this is okay, we changed the cue, great, yep, cool. There's going to be a specific thing that you're trying to accomplish, i.e. hear the difference.
Yeah.
And so it'll be slow at first, it'll be annoying, yes, of course, this is just how it goes, but at least you will know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
That's it.
That's so important. I think that the first 5 years that I floundered, if someone had said, I mean, the organization of part of things, which is in the course, is really useful. I already had that through spending $20,000 on tuition, which is different to a $70 course.
Yeah.
In that it's $19,930 difference. But I didn't have the ear training. And when people use the cliche, use your ears, it's like, well, that's like saying,
Cool
it's
story.
like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. It's like doing something like, as a visual example, walk into a big open field and try and look for a camouflaged animal. Just use your eyes, bro. Except if you're trained to know what to look for and you've done it most of your life, you'll go, he's over there. But most people, you'll just say, there's a dog in that field, find the dog. And you'll go,
Where
what?
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, let's just use your eyes. It's
Yeah,
right
it's the
there.
same thing. It's the
Same
same
thing.
argument like, just get started. Wow. Nobel Prize winner here. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, that is amazing. Wow.
I mean,
Okay,
that's
how?
As
How?
much, yeah, that is not bad advice, but it is not good advice either. It's empty advice. That's what I would say is, yes, just get started, but if you're not past that point already, no one's going to help you.
Right. I
I
mean,
was looking for every answer under the sun long before anybody told me to get started. When people told me to get started, I'd already produced 2 full albums.
right.
They
I
sucked,
mean, I mean, there's a
but
difference. I mean, there's definitely a difference with some people, like such as yourself. Like, I mean, I fully admit, like, as far as terms of technical knowledge and know-how and stuff, like Adam's the first guy. I'm like, Adam, you know, it's a pedal. What do I do?
yeah,
And but he knows that once he answers a couple of my super dumbass questions, that I'll be good to go
yeah,
because I have these, and I'll be able to understand. Oh, okay, all right, cool. I understand now. But the initial technical hump is always where I struggle. Like I'm
right.
not a technical wizard.
And
You
it's
know,
the funny thing. I was always technical first. So, like, that's the thing. I could take a guitar amp apart and tell you exactly how it worked when I was 16 years old. Could I get a good guitar tone out of it? Probably not. Because as much as I could tell you what every single thing did and why, I didn't have the real world experience and someone to translate that for me into here's why we do this thing.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's so important. You can feel your way around, and some people luck out with feeling around. But as soon as you get thrown a curveball, if you're
yeah.
just feeling it out, that's when no, that's when you go
Well,
and you get it
I,
wrong.
dude, I got the same story. I didn't really get much better with my music until I got to a level where a guy who was working in the industry professionally basically said, okay, I mean, you have some skill here. I'll mentor you for a little while. But it wasn't just like I'm sitting there like a brand new puppy at your doorstep going, let's do this. It was
Yeah,
like I had to like slog through the mud myself trying to make sense out of just all this stuff in a non-concise manner. And
yeah,
yeah, get started mixing, absolutely, but don't there's a smart way to do it and a not so smart way to do it. The not so smart, the super not smart way to do it would be how I did it in 2002, where completely by myself in a vacuum with 28K dial-up internet into a severely underpowered computer, and that's like that, right? That's the
yep.
super. And if I
Same.
was, if I was that age in 2021, that would be silly. Grab a resource that walks you through A to Z, so that you don't have to spend 3 years just understanding the basic concepts of mixing, so
Yeah,
that you can start opening the next door. That's all this is. I'm not making fun of anyone for being new. You know, intermediates or anyone. You know, I just want to help people get. I just want people to be able to mix their own songs. Is that so damn bad? I mean, that's all I just want to help people not experience the frustration. You know, I got lit up on the internet for using this word, not experience the depression, because I don't know about you, dude, but there were many times where I'm laying in bed at night with my head on the pillow going, maybe I should quit.
I never saw it the same way, but I know where you're coming from. I would lie with my head on the pillow and then get back up and mix again until 6 a.m. So it's a similar thing. It's kind of at that point it was imposter syndrome. It's
Sure.
I know I can do better. It's problems. We've all got different problems with this kind of thing for sure. But yeah, that was it for me. Was kind of maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe if I change this thing, that'll fix everything. Nope. Maybe if I change this thing, repeat, repeat, repeat. Mix 78. Let's see how that sounds.
Jesus. Yeah, final 1.279A.
Oh God, yeah. Oh man,
Been there, done that. So that's all I'm trying to do with this course. I don't claim to be an expert. I've never ever said anywhere that I'm an expert. But like I say, I do know what works and what can be helpful to people who are just getting started. And in my opinion, I don't need to have a 30,000 square foot studio. I mean, this is. I mean, you know, like listen, guys. I did guitar tone mastery with a $200 guitar. I know what I'm doing. Let me put it that way.
yeah.
Right. And of course the tones are better now with this very sexy angle here that I have that I'll be making a video.
Ooh, yeah.
But But if it wasn't for that, all the other stuff I do now, like Adam has said this multiple times. There are plenty of guys with $3,000 guitars with absolute shit guitar tones.
Yep.
So there are plenty of guys who have a mixing desk, all the analog gear you could ever ask for, churning out terrible mixes.
Oh yes.
So
it's about the mentality. It's about how you think. And yeah, I think that mixing your first metal song is definitely a very good primer into thinking in a good way. I'm not going to use the phrase the right way because there's no such thing as the right way. But I mean, the other thing is it's illuminating for me because I've seen some of the stuff from the clips that you did with Glenn, and with the organization, I work the same way. With some of the other things, I don't kind of work the same way, but I can follow the thought patterns. And I can understand from that why I work the way I work.
Well, there's the difference. I mean, and you're completely correct. I talk about this in the course as well. Like, there's no right way. But I mean, there are some rules of thumbs where, I mean, like, how painful are you going to make it for yourself?
Yeah.
There are just some things that it's usually just good to do it this way. And you don't have to. You don't have to, by all means. But Jesus, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble.
Oh, I detest the people who say, there are no rules, man. It's like, well, of course there are no rules. You didn't need to say that. You're just trying to say something to try and sound clever. Give us an actual answer.
Sure.
I find that the people who say there are no rules, you go and listen to their mixes and they're generally terrible. Because they're the kind of people who, rather than using an EQ to fix a guitar, will take a piece of wood and hit themselves over the head because there are no rules.
There are no rules.
Yeah,
but
this is their version of changing the sound. Oh, like beating a rock with a stick. It's like,
see what that. I'll answer the question for you. What that actually means by there are no rules. It means there are no rules in terms of your creative bounds. How you decide to think about the sound you're recording or the song you're writing, there are no rules. But I'm sorry, when it comes to fucking physics and sound, there are some rules.
Yeah.
And there are just certain things that you can and cannot do. I didn't make these rules. Adam didn't make the rules. Just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So no rules when you're coming up with a cool idea. Maybe you want to track things in a funky way, like put your guitar microphone in the basement. No rules. It could sound cool. It could not. But when you get into mix balance and mixing the damn song, you got from 0 to 20K.
Yep. You've got from quiet to 0 dB limit as well. Yeah. It goes both ways. And you've got to fit all these things.
So that's the answer. So no rules, of course, but I'm sorry. When there are just certain things that must be done in a particular fashion if you want your song to sound like a song. So, like in the course, I talk about low end, how to get your kick and bass relationship making sense, low mids, very important frequency range to get making sense because your low mids have your snare, your lower, how do you call this? You're a bass player. I wouldn't call it the lows of the guitar, bass guitar, but like the 200 range would start being like the lower mids, I guess.
Yeah,
but then you have the low mids of the guitars, you got the bass, and you got the kick drum in there. And that's where a lot of problems happen.
Yes.
So,
and that's where I start to use different words than just low and low mid. I've got my own language that I use for things like that for different instruments. And it makes it complicated because you've got to learn what each set kind of is. But once you understand them, you can get these relationships like vocals and guitars have a frequency range that are called boxy.
Yeah.
Which is generally 400 to 600 hertz ish, depending on the tuning, depending on a number of factors. The bass, like you're saying, that 200 hertz range, I call that the weight range.
Good call, actually. Yeah.
Because like anything lower than that, that's what moves you, right? But in a thick mix, if there's nothing in that weight area, you've just got clang, 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 and there's no
kick drum.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a kick drum that constantly just rumbles.
Yeah.
And then
it's all interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there are things like you want every element in the mix to have everything, but then you realize that you can't. But if you do it right, you can make it feel
correct,
like you have it all there.
Yep.
And it's a lot of it is basics before you get into the clever Like, here's how I sprinkle some fairy dust on this. Like
Well,
a lot of the clever things that I do on mixes, if you turn them off, it probably still sounds like a half decent mix.
so the thing is, like, how can I say this? I'm trying to come up with an analogy off the top of my head here. Let's go with cooking, right? So if you want to cook something, it's the same thing. You need to learn how to cook it in the most basic form.
Yeah,
Because how are you going to know what this spice would do to this taste without having already experienced them in their basic form?
yeah,
So what's the point of doing complicated triggered parallel drum processing when you, first of all, your drums don't need parallel processing, maybe. Who knows? You have to listen for that. And second of all, there's a much easier way to do it that's just as effective. And probably this super crazy technique was for a very specific problem that the guy was having in that mix. So cool trick, YouTube clicks, awesome, but applicable? Most likely not.
yeah,
Again, comes from experience of you mixing a lot of songs where you're sitting there going, oh my God, how can I fix this problem? And for some reason, your brain goes, hey man, use a de-esser. And you're going, that's dumb. And you're like, wait a minute, that could work. Because you're using one
yeah.
specific element of the de-esser in one specific spot for one specific reason.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And just, yeah, it for me at this point, it's innately knowing what each one of my tools is capable of. But most of that, I don't need. I mean, a lot of them are nice, and I like them,
Sure.
and they're shiny, and they do clever things. And that's the different problem between when I started mixing and now. So when I started mixing, either you used the stock plugins, or you used weird free stuff, or you used waves.
Mm-hmm.
Those were your choices. Now you can use 1,000 different versions of an 1176 compressor from 1,000 different people,
Yeah.
including 4 different ones, I think, from Slate. That's like, well, which one of those
Yeah.
do I use and why? And it's like, this is mixed basics. Stop it. Just
Here's the thing about that. In the course I included a PDF where I speak a little bit about every single plugin that I used and my reason for using it. The most important thing, however, I included in that document was when and when not to buy plugins. And I boiled it down to some very basic questions. Because you don't do what I did, where, I'm not getting the result I want, I guess I need to buy a plugin. I've got plugins. I have hundreds of plugins. This is not a joke. I've spent way too much money on plugins that sit in a folder that I have forgotten about on my hard disk somewhere that's not even connected. Forgot entirely about their existence, and I spent money on them for what? I should have just gone back to my stock EQ and learned how to EQ.
yeah. Yeah,
or
there is a
whatever it
lot
was.
of that. I mean, that's the next step should be learning why like vintage EQs do this and vintage compressors
Yeah.
etc. do that, because without knowing really what the basic process feels like, not what it does on paper, but what it feels like, the special versions, the analog versions or whatever, they might sound nice, but how are you going to know ahead of time which one's right? How are you going to know that compression is what you need, or that, like, what if you compress a thing with the nice compressor and it sounds even worse? Why does it sound worse?
Oh, dude, you're going on the rabbit hole now because the truth to that is every compressor works with different attack and release ratios, and the actual analog ones are all different. So you could have
yeah.
1176 that works well in this song, but for this song, it's a no-go. So, and I'm not going to pretend that I know these things. I'm just starting to get learning about all this gear to understand like why in this song the 1176 was cool, but in this song it's complete and utter trash. It's not working.
Yeah. But that all comes back to the fundamentals, which are like, so this guitar was really full in the mids. If you try and compress it, the mids are going to be even more mids. And then you try and EQ that out, and suddenly it sounds hollow and shit. Why didn't you just not do any of that?
Right.
And just gently take away some mids and watch it magically just work?
Dude,
But somebody
dynamic
told you
EQ
that
has
that
been one of the greatest things ever lately, in my opinion, at least for my workflow. It has replaced a lot of multi-band compressor use on guitars for me, and vocals even. I just Fat Filter dynamic EQ has just been really, really nice. Soothe also is really cool.
yeah,
Of
I was going to
course.
say I don't tend to use dynamic EQ, but then you said Soothe, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess I do.
So yeah, but again, I mean, like the rabbit hole is dark and deep and never ending. But in the beginning, like Adam has been saying, none of that matters right now.
No.
If you're still trying to decide, where in your drums the sessions are gonna sit, just forget about all this 1176 stuff.
Yeah.
First, decide what your session looks like, and then never change.
That's it. A couple of years ago, I did a video where I live mixed a song from Fluff. Actually,
Oh, cool.
there was a song that his band Dragged Under had put out for a competition, and I just decided, right, scrap everything. I'm gonna use stock plugins, nothing else. And
Hard mode.
it sounded really good at the end, and I was surprised in myself. And I came to the realization that I'd used the same methods, same processes, same understanding. I'd just thrown out all the shiny stuff, and so it looked ugly. It looked messy. If you looked in some of these plugins where there's no fancy,
Right.
it doesn't look nice, but it did the thing, and it did the thing that I needed at that time.
So yeah, you can make a great mix with stock plugins. The thing with the third-party plugins is it's usually combining some type of functionality that makes the workflow more efficient and perhaps faster.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you end up like, that's why I use Fat Filter. Fat Filter is my jam. I use that as my go-to neutral, clean EQ for everything.
Yeah.
Because I can do everything I wanted to do there. I can make the most extreme weird bands, dynamic EQ. Bam, 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 bam. I can just, the thing about it is, guys, you want to get to a point when you're mixing, okay, where you're not thinking about the technical process. I bring up Fat Filter, I'm not thinking what key I need to press to do the action that I want to do. I bring it up, I go bam, 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 bam. Because mixing is a creative pursuit. Okay? We just have to interface with technical elements, i.e. the DAW or the EQ or the compressor, to satisfy our creative goals. All right,
Yes.
That's the most overcomplicated explanation of mixing ever, but that's why all these top level mixers pay assistants to do all this other shit, like editing, setting up the session, importing all the because all they want to do is creatively mix.
Yeah. I actually, when I mix, if I can, most of the time, I separate it into two jobs, and that is like I do the assistant stuff,
Right.
then separately, probably in the evening, I do the mix, because yeah, it can be quite draining doing all your making sure your edits are clean, making sure nothing's distorting, making sure everything's in time, especially if it's not your own material.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking
is this drum
about
fill supposed to be in 16ths or 16 triplets, or maybe it's eighths? Jesus Christ, what does this guy play here?
yeah,
Stuff like that.
yeah. Well, I don't know the way I like to mix. If a fill goes and sounds like it's falling down the stairs, I don't care. That's not what a mixing engineer does. That's what the creative
Correct.
guys do. If the band decided
Yeah.
that was good. If they like it, I don't care. Maybe it's some crazy quintuplet fill. Maybe it was never meant to be. Maybe it was meant to be did and they screwed up and it sounded
But it's
good.
Flam City. Click, click,
Yeah.
click, click, click.
If they're happy with it, fine. But yeah, technical issues, I tend to do the mix assistant stuff. Like if you can hear breaths in between the vocals
Yeah,
where they're like
yeah.
coughing and scratching their ass, and
Or the music's playing.
or the guitars where they go
headphones.
chug chug chug, and then there's them fidgeting for 2 bars before the next bit. Cut that out.
Yep.
But it's draining and it's technical. And when all that's done and I can press play, I'm probably at the point you're describing as the static mix, where I can play it back and it's
Correct.
like, this is a song. And
Right.
I make sure the levels are reasonable so that when I play it, nothing's clipping, Nothing's distorting. Nothing's got background noise where it shouldn't be. And I can press play and it sounds like a demo. It sounds like something that you could probably put on, center radio station for their like up and coming bands night.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And then you mix.
Correct. Yeah. That's there's a bundle on Spectre where you can get mixing your first metal song and mixing extreme metal. There'll probably be a picture, whatever. Adam's the editing master; he'll do it. But
send me a picture, I'll put it in.
Because mixing extreme metal does all the pre-production for real drums,
right?
And that's 2 or 3 hours before I even loaded the session to import the tracks.
Right.
So if you're using programmed drums, what's the point of showing that to you?
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's the other thing that's different. When I started mixing, even like the original drum kit from Hell wasn't a thing yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was like if you either got some horrible samples for drums with the intention of replacing it later, or you put one microphone above the drummer like your SM57 copy and just hoped.
I used Reason packs, and I would rewire Reason into Cakewalk Sonar.
Oh, oh, that hurt.
Yeah, Reason 3. Yeah, that's the last time. Yeah, so I'm saying, dude, but I just wanted to make music back then, so that's what I had to do. And then Drum Kit from Hell came out, and ironically, you need to have some pretty good producer chops to make that thing even sound worth a shit. Because the snare drum is like a fucking tin can.
Oh, I love that snare. I actually produced an album with that sound, and it worked perfectly because the album was all odd time signatures and drop A. So it was basically not good Meshuggah, and it just worked. But for most things, no way.
Dude, the toms are legitimate cardboard boxes. The only thing that sounds good on that thing is the kick. The extreme kick has just loads amount of blowing and the perfect amount of attack. But, I mean, this product is 15, 16 years old by now. 17 perhaps. That apparently was based on the 90s version of the discs. Dude,
it predated Easy Drummer. It was if I remember, it was the original Toon Track thing.
Correct. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's a long... Dude, we're dinosaurs, man. So, I mean, at this point right now, thank God you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can just, a small amount of money, like you can
get Slate Drum's free version.
Correct, yeah. And that works just fine. You can get, Reaper. You can get a decent drum library. If you're not programming your own bass, you can get a bass library. I think all the submission bass stuff uses Contact free player, so you don't even have to buy Contact. And then free amp simulators and record your voice. And then mixing your first metal song, and you can be mixing your song within a day or two because the course is only 5 hours long of just very concentrated. This is what you do. Why? Next. Here's what you do next. Here's why. Next. And everything is full on in order from A to Z. I mix the song live. I recorded myself mixing it, but that's what I do. How I mix it is how I mix it. And you mix everything.
Yeah. Leave no man behind.
Exactly. So, I mean, the thing is just, if you want to get started, applaud, of course. I would suggest that there would be a smart way to get started, and that would be learn from a guy who wasted a lot of time and money for many years. And don't do what I did and think I could, because literally I was so egotistical. I'm like, well, I'll just learn it by myself. How hard can it be? It's pretty damn hard if you don't have any idea what to do, like none.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you go into it blind and just read a couple of things, you'll think you know what to do. That was my experience. And then over a long period, you come to realize that each thing that you thought you knew, you'd read something and you'd seen some cool producer do a thing, and the material they were working on didn't sound like the material you were working on, so it didn't work. And you didn't know why it didn't work until you really understood why they did what they did.
Correct.
And yeah, just consolidating it is into one place would have saved me so much time. Which brings us on to the elephant in the room. This is a course and it costs some money.
Oh,
So
yeah. I mean, I can't buy this whiskey for free, you know. I mean,
yeah.
so it's sale price right now, 77. Full price is going to be 97. And like I say, it's 5 hours concentrated material, videos. You get all the raw multi-tracks. You get the Reaper session that I mixed. I threw that in there. I've also set up mix ready sessions, meaning like everything is imported, everything's routed. So if you got Logic, Studio One Pro, Cubase Pro, Reaper even, and Cakewalk, there are session files all ready for you to go in there. So you could like just start mixing straight away without having to do the pre-pro stuff. There's 3 supplemental videos, like the static mixing one we just talked about, but I also did one about compressors and what does attack mean, what does release mean,
Yeah.
and what it actually does, how to just on a basic level how to use them. And then I also talked about gain staging in the digital era,
Ooh,
which is
yes.
a hot topic in and of itself. But I mean, I gave my 2 cents about it. And what am I forgetting? There's the PDF about all the plugins I used, guidelines on when and when to not buy plugins. And of course, we can't forget the exclusive Discord, which has got hundreds of people in it. Just Facebook sucks. I stopped using Facebook, so I have the Discord community and we share songs, share memes, have fun, help each other out, plug-in deals. Just it's a great community.
It
And it's
is. I'm
exclusive
part
only
of
for
it.
people that are in it.
Yes, I'm on there, and I can tell you firsthand that if you've got a question there, they're not condescending. It's really
Yep.
a good place to ask the stupid questions, because the stupid questions are what drive us.
Well,
Because
here's the
there's no
difference,
such thing
right?
as a well-made stupid question doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You and I are both old enough to remember the good old days of the forum war. Where you try to ask a question, all the experts come in and roast you
Yeah.
for having a question. Well, here's the deal. In the Discord community, to gain entrance, you have to have bought one of my courses. So what that tells everybody else is that you're serious about learning.
Yeah.
You put some skin in the game and you're like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. So we're all in the same spot. We don't have some resident anonymous forum nerd, literally, who's a expert telling you that you're stupid. None of that crap. It's just, hey, we're all here. We're all doing the same thing. Share your mix, do your stuff, have fun, have a laugh, chat. And I really, really am very happy that I made the community, because I was like really unhappy with how Facebook groups work and I just really didn't enjoy it. But yeah, the Discord community is freaking awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, join up, get access to the very cool people, be one of the cool kids, so to
Especially
speak.
Adam. Well,
Yeah.
you join up because you want to talk to Adam. Let's be real.
It's always an option.
Right.
But yeah, I've checked out a lot of Scott's stuff, and I've still learnt stuff even now, because even though I'm the super technical one and Scott's more of the kind of creative guy, I would say, there's still a lot of process in there that makes me stop and reflect and go, hang on, why am I not doing this? Because you sent me a message on Discord a few days ago saying, what's an active EQ?
Yeah, that's because I was Googling it, and the answers in Google were bullshit. It's like an active EQ is not. It means it's not a passive EQ. No kidding.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's such a stupid question, but it's really not. But that's a technical thing, and that's the thing that for basic mixing you don't need to know. When you get to the super technical stuff, I can tell you that almost every EQ that you use is an active EQ, because they have to be powered, because like when you boost level, that's how they bring the extra level in. They're a little amplifier, essentially.
Got it.
But passive EQs don't. Passive EQs are weird. Passive EQs can only make things quieter. The way they work is they're just a filter, and they just get rid of. So if you want more low end with a passive EQ, it doesn't do that. It cuts everything else.
Okay.
So all you're
That's
left with is
interesting.
more low end. And then usually with passive EQs, you have some sort of amplifier afterwards to
Okay.
bring the level back. That's why things like the old Pultec EQs, the passive EQs, that's why they're so damn expensive. Because they've got all these components to filter it nicely, and then there's a tube amp in there to turn it back up again.
Got it. Yeah, that's a true story, because I'm literally on Google, what is active EQ? And I
Yeah.
shit you not, like the first 3 responses are active versus passive. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then they just give an example of what active and passive are.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this told me nothing. Nonsense.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, when you think about it, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you hear and what you want the results to be and why.
That's pretty much what I concluded. The reason why I asked you, by the way, is because this pedal is our active EQ.
Yes.
And I did not give 2 shits when I was playing with this with the amp, because it means nothing to me. But
Right.
it was just me going, what the hell is that? Maybe it's a feature of this pedal that I need to know about. And basically, I concluded after I talked to you and looked at Google for 5 minutes, I'm like, fucking cares. And I just
Yeah, that's
went
it.
on
I
with
mean,
it.
it's not something that comes up very often because I get all the technical questions because I'm a tech nerd. But so much of what I know from the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 education is completely useless on a day-to-day basis. Like I wrote a whole like 15,000 word like whole like thing about different types of surround sound. That didn't actually help me mix in surround sound. It's like, yeah, great. So now I've got the letters after my name for learning all the things about this thing that didn't actually help me do my day job. Like, great.
Awesome. Yeah, I made it. And that's the other thing, guys. That's how I make my money for real. Like, I mix clients.
Yeah.
You know, I do this every day. You know, and I like, and kind of like what Glenn says. He's like, yeah, I haven't mixed anything. I haven't mixed anything either, but I make money every
Yeah.
day
People
doing
go
what I
yeah.
do.
People go to Scott for mixing extreme metal. Like, I've noticed recently, Carl Sanders from Nile at being asked, like, who should I go to mix my album? And he said, you should talk to Scott.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
that's true. That did happen. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, when the guy who
So-
can play at 7 million BPM and is one of the most brutal guitarists we know is saying, yeah, Scott should do it. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Ringing
I mean,
endorsement.
yeah,
10
I
out of
did-
5 stars.
10 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I screenshotted that. But I mean, here's the other thing too. I'm not one for tooting my own horn. I just get to work and do my thing. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I just have an idea of how I can help people start mixing now. And like you say, it's not the right or the wrong way, but I mean, it's just a way. How about that? It is a way. And then you can decide later on if it works for you or not. But at least you'll have something to compare to straight away instead of the black, dark hole of YouTube tutorials.
Yeah.
That this one says do this, but then this one says don't do that. That's stupid. Do this. And then the third one says both of those things are stupid. Do this. And then you're not mixing anymore. You're just trying to find the right answer.
Yeah. And then you end up in the confirmation bias where you're like, well, I like this guy more.
Right.
But you still don't understand why. Yeah.
That's it.
That's what it comes down to, is if you don't understand why they're making these decisions, then you may as well have not watched any of them, because when it
Correct.
comes to your own mix, you're probably going to do the thing they did and not get the result they did because you're not mixing their song.
I mean, literally it. And it's not fashionable to say that stuff because, I mean, like the marketing hype should be like, oh yeah, just, one knob and sound like the pros. It's like that does not happen ever.
Funnily enough, just to throw Waves under the bus quickly, do you remember their one knob series?
Oh yeah, the one knob series, the one knob everything. Yeah, I remember.
Never got a single one of those to do anything that sounds good on anything.
I mean, dude, I'll be honest with you. The best mixes that I've ever done are always when they're tracked impeccably. So maybe then the one knob could possibly work out. But I mean, I would just rather better be confident in my skills to understand what I need to do and when and why, instead of hoping that my one knob plugin is gonna slap the magic on there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, good old Waves. Thank God for Slate, because they completely made Waves
They made Waves
bring their
crap
prices
themselves.
down.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, people don't remember this. Waves, like when you were saying, like you either did stock plugins or weird free plugins or Waves. Waves was like $7,000 for the Mercury bundle, dude. They were gouging the hell out of the market because they were like the only ones.
Yep.
Their prices were astronomically high. Dumb high, like out of reach for people.
I remember when the Mercury bundle came out and it had half the plugins that it has now, and it went on sale once for $4,500, and everybody lost their mind because that was a bargain. And now you look at it and they're trying to offer me the upgrade for the few plugins that I have for 1,000, and it's like, I don't need you anymore.
Yep. No, you really don't. I mean, I think I still use L1. I really should just use the Voxengo elim, the e-limiter, because it's faster. Because I always switch back to the original interface of L1 because it moves faster, and I just I like the simplicity of it. The new one, it's like, why did you? This looks stupid. But the Voxengo e-limiter, I probably should go back. I should probably switch to using that instead of L1. To be honest, it's just easier and faster. Just an aside. But yeah, now you don't need to do that. Like the Fat Filter, I think, is sort of on the mountain right now in terms of like super neutral, clean sounding EQ. Their Pro C is pretty good because you can do sign chaining and all these different things. Blah blah blah. I mean, it's only now do I recognize these features. 10 years ago, I would have been like, side chaining. Why do I need? What's that? What am I? Even in the cock blocker, you can key to look, and I'm like, what is that? Why would I need to know how to do that? Well, you really don't. You can.
Yeah, I do that with the real amp and the real pedal, because when you're playing, that's a different thing. But in a mix, nobody cares, because if you need a gate that's that clean, you're gonna chop the bits out anyway.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I still manually get in there and do that, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, gates like that can be nice when you've got a part that goes like jump, 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 jump.
Yeah.
And you want it to be cleaner in between. But when you've got bits in like 2 bars of a guitarist just sat like scratching his ass and moving his hands on you just select, gone.
Or like the finger harmonics when they're just moving their hand up and down the fretboard.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so there you go. Everybody who wants to go and buy Scott's course, it is on sale right now. The link is in the description below. It's my affiliate link, so Scott will get lots of money, and if you're interested, I'll probably get a little bit of money too. But it's a little bit of money, but it's mostly for Scott because Scott did all the work. And
I think it's only for 1 week. When's this video going to come out?
Tomorrow, I think.
Okay, we'll just say it's another week. So yeah, from the date of this video, I think it's only like 6 days left, 5 or 6 days.
Buy now. Da, da, da.
Let's put that video of Glenn in here. And well, wait, there's more. How you did that scroll of the text? I was just dying. That was so funny. All that was missing was like a buy now.
I almost did that as well. I just ran out of time.
Man, that was funny.
And put the little credit card logos underneath.
Right. Or 13 easy payments or whatever, some shit like that. That would have been, it would have been hilarious.
With it being Glenn's channel, it would have been 13 easy payments of fuck you.
Oh man, dude, it's always good to chat. Adam is a fucking great guy, and he always answers my questions, even though they are dumb. But Adam's a really good dude. And I'm really, really, really lucky and glad that I can call Adam a friend. So, Adam, here's to you, buddy. Thanks for allowing me on the channel to chat.
Cheers.
And it's always a good time, my man.
Well, thank you, Scott. It's always appreciated. You are a very good dude, too. And get the hell off my lawn. All
right. Well, I didn't want to be here anyway. I was just saying nice things so you wouldn't get mad at me. Yeah.
Whatever. Well, we'll see you all tomorrow for the next video, everybody. But in the meantime, thanks for watching this very long video. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, Scott.
Cheers,
See
man.
you all
Have a
very
good one.
soon. Bye.